Hey everyone, John Lorden here with a very special edition of Brainscratch Searchlight. We have the family of missing person Vincent Shea, or we might find out his name's pronounced different once we get into the actual interview. We've got a lot of details. We've got some more information to share with you guys, and we also have a very special request. We really need your help. There has been a previous video on this case. If you haven't seen it yet, you can pause this one, look in the description box below, and I'll have a link to it. But just as a very quick recap, missing person Vincent Shea, last seen April 2nd, 2019 in North Vancouver, BC. And to be more specific, this is an area known as Upper Lynn, in Lynn Valley. And we get kind of concerned about this regional park area that we see in the middle of the map here, because there's a very good chance that he was in this area at some time. This was a normal walking spot for him. But back to the details, we're talking about a 60-year-old Asian male. We also have a very important consideration here that we know he was having some issues with his memory. 5'7", 150 pounds, last seen wearing blue jeans, a brown checkered shirt with a blue vest, and bright green shoes. They actually have the shoes here in the picture so you can see them for yourself. And there's maybe even some way where those shoes can help us outside of the obvious of how bright they are. We're going to talk about some kind of new technology that has been developing as well. But for now, I would like to introduce Rick and Zoe to the show. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us here. And I've already spoken to Rick and Zoe on one occasion. That's part of the reason why we're here doing this. We felt like there was some new information that we should get out there. But let me just take the opportunity to once again tell you guys that I'm very, very heartbroken for this case and seeing what you guys are facing with this. And there's a lot of people, I know I'm speaking for a lot of other viewers from the last video, that are really hoping for the best outcome in this. And if nothing else, hoping that your family finds some answers, because I know how tough it is being in this spot. So
Thank you, John, and thank you for doing that initial video. It was really helpful to build additional awareness, and yeah, we feel like we got a little bit more momentum behind us, and you suggest a lot of really good resources as well in our own personal call, so thank you for doing that.
No, you got it. You got it. So starting off with, let's get the formalities out of the way. It seems like we've been busting up the last name of the family, so let's clear that up. I saw one person make a comment, hey, John, I think it's actually pronounced Cha. I've been saying Shea, and it's actually...
It is actually Chi.
Chi. Okay.
Cheese.
Vincent Chi. Excellent. And can you tell us just a little bit more about his personality and his hobbies? I know, Zoe, it sounds like you had a bit of an interesting relationship with him as well.
Yeah, I think he was funny. He was goofy. He was always telling really random, funny stories from the past. I think that was one of my favorite things about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really funny.
Yeah, he's a generally pretty easygoing individual, a little bit quiet. With him not being at work anymore, he ended up being a little bit more outgoing in the community. So he was pretty well known at the bakery. As soon as we went down to the bakery and asked if they've seen him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Vincent for sure." Like we haven't seen him in a while, so yeah, it's definitely he's changed a little bit and become a little more outgoing.
So he was retired?
I would say he stopped working essentially due to the issues that we mentioned earlier about his mental capabilities decreasing a little bit with his memory, and he's lost a little bit of his some of the skills that he used to be able to be really good with, such as basic maintenance, building maintenance items. He started losing that a little bit, so his employer felt it would be best for him to maybe stop working and maybe be assessed a little bit first before returning to work.
How was he dealing with that? Was he, I mean, it's pretty rough when a lot of us have a lot of our I don't want to say personality, but a lot of what makes us us is work. And all of a sudden, him not being allowed to work, did he take that hard?
For sure. It was a little bit frustrating for him at first. And on occasion, he actually forgot and showed up to work. And yeah, I would say it was a little bit difficult for him at first, but after a while, he started embracing it and spending more time in the wilderness, going for walks, going for strolls around, going to the mall. And yeah, that's how he sort of became a little bit better known in the neighborhood.
Yeah. And what type of time period are we talking about from when he stopped working?
It would have been, I think,
like a year and a half.
Yeah, it was around Christmas that was identified.
Oh, so less than a year.
No, it would have been about a year and a half.
The previous Christmas?
Yeah,
okay.
Previous Christmas.
So certainly gave him enough time to adjust to it and make the change and start to appreciate his new life, it sounded like, which if he was getting these new habits and everything, that's kind of a good sign. Obviously, he's a father. How big of a family are we talking about here?
I'm actually the only child.
So, oh, really? Yeah. Okay, excellent. But he was living with, is his wife your mother, his current wife?
Yes.
Okay. So he's living with your mother. Anyone else living with them?
No, it was just the two of them. I moved out here about 5 years ago. So.
And how far are you from them?
I'm about a 20-minute drive.
Okay. Okay. Your mother must be a wreck.
Yeah, she took it really hard initially, and she's still processing and going through it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons why we do these shows, obviously, is to help other families that are in these situations. Do you guys, are there any things that you've been doing that have helped her in terms of coping with this? How do you help her with this?
I think at first the searches were important to her, and I think her church got involved really early on, and I think that was a big, important piece.
Yeah.
But now I think just keeping her in the loop. And what do you think?
I think right now, keeping her essentially close and letting her know that she is being supported.
Yeah.
And that we're here for her, whatever happens. I think that's a big part of it. Showing support to her. And it is less so on being active and proactively looking and searching, but more that, yeah, we're just there for the emotional support. And whatever hits her at whatever stage of dealing with this issue right now, we're there to support her.
I think for her, including us, I don't think she's really ready to give up and stop believing that he might still be out there. So I think that's maybe where she's at.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you after looking into cases like this for years now, you truly never know the outcome. And I want to walk that almost as a tightrope because I'm not trying to give you guys any sense of false hope necessarily, but I can tell you I've seen conclusions to cases where it would just blow your mind. It's just like, oh my God, this person was actually here the whole time and we just didn't know it. Those things certainly do happen. And even if we're not talking about a situation like that with this case, you're not going to be able to stop until you know where he is. I've spoken to enough families. I know about this dynamic. And why would you want to? You know, I literally just had a case where a mother that I've been in contact for a very long time has just found that the jawbone of her son has been located. And I've been speaking to her over the past day about this as well. And this is a woman that worked so hard trying to raise exposure and she never, ever stopped. And that's a case that went on for years. But there's all kinds of different possibilities, all kinds of different things that can happen here. And you absolutely have to keep that light alive within you guys and keep up the efforts, which is what we're doing here. And I know that you guys are good for that. So no one else living with them. Let's jump to the first comment from a viewer. I'm kind of mixing in comments from you guys because you made such good points and also brought up some good questions. So I'm using your help in terms of processing this. From Vicky Noeski, good friend of the channel for a long time. If he went toward the mall, are there any businesses on the way that would have security cameras? Did they look into that angle?
Yes, we did look into that angle quite early, and we also looked into the transit security cameras as well. And none of that really turned up anything. It was just the residential security cameras that we actually found proper images of him.
Right.
Yeah.
And did pan out, obviously. And so on the walk to the mall, I mean, just to get Vicky's question kind of specifically, were there businesses on the way to the mall?
There was the one. There's the coffee shop in the corner of, is it Dempsey?
Dempsey and then Valley Road, yeah.
Yeah. And you guys obviously checked with them and they didn't have any.
Yeah, just the camera angle that it was pointing, it didn't really
It wouldn't have captured
out there.
anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, and even looking through their security camera footage, there wasn't anything that would indicate that he was there.
Okay, gotcha. Now we've talked a little bit about the fluorescent shoes. I know in the first video I was wondering, were they really fluorescent just because of that one still shot of the camera that I saw? But you guys have seen more of the footage than just that still shot, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, and you guys are right. It does look a little bit more gray, but for sure they are the yellow shoes. Those are the only shoes in the house right now too. So we're pretty sure on that one.
Okay, excellent. And the other footage that you got from the other home's camera, it looked like it was kind of tighter and closer in on him. Could you see his shoes at all in there, in that footage?
Even that one, the footage makes it out to be a little bit more on the gray side.
Okay.
Yeah, it's grayish green. You can somewhat see. But no, I think it's just the lighting and the angle. For most of these security cameras, the color doesn't pick up all that well.
Right.
The ones on my own property, sometimes the color is a little bit off. So yeah, we're still pretty confident that it is those bright green shoes.
Yeah. And was it a gray morning or was it a brighter morning out there?
It was sunny.
Yeah, it was pretty bright sunny morning.
That's what I thought. Yeah, it looked like a lot of the shadows were really hard. And as we just saw a few moments ago, when your sun decides to come out, it sure comes out strong.
Yes.
Okay, so did he receive any troubling news prior to his disappearance? I know we've kind of talked about, him not having his work anymore, but that was a long period of time before. Was there anything else going on in his life in terms of bad medical news or issues with relationships or anything like that?
No, there was no news of that sort. At least nothing that we knew about.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no changes in terms of his medical history or medical information. So it was just essentially normal life for him. So.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing that your mother noticed leading up to his disappearance? Nothing strange or different?
No, definitely not.
Okay. I don't know how to say this name, but I'm going to try. Selrak Samaj, hope I got that right, asks, does Vincent know how to swim?
I would say he is not a great swimmer. We used to go to the pool together when I was a toddler, and I remember him not being a strong swimmer at all. So I would say it's more on the no side. He doesn't know how to swim.
Okay. I mean, in a lot of these cases, water becomes a risk factor that we look into. And we've had several cases. Actually, the case I was just telling you about, that jawbone did actually wind up coming out through a water source as well. His walk that he would usually take, I know that it looks like there's a river that's kind of running near there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's the Seymour River, and then there's also, I think, Lynn Creek, as well as Rice Lake. So there's a couple of bodies of water.
Okay.
And there's a lot of waterways in that area.
Any searches that have been done in those bodies?
Yes. So Lynn Canyon, which is where Lynn Creek runs through, the North Shore Search and Rescue used drones to search that area. And unfortunately, they did lose one of their drones in trying to search, but they did do a really thorough sweep of the area.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. And I know we talked about this a little bit. I think you addressed it in a Facebook post, but just to make sure everyone knows, did he usually take his walking stick if he was heading to the trail?
No.
No. So that photo that everyone's referring to was back in January when my dad and I went for a bit of a stroll. And I supplied him with the hiking poles because I knew there was going to be a little bit of snow on the trail.
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason why I had the poles in that. But no, he doesn't have any of that. It's just usually his shoes, jacket, glasses, and wallet.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, especially I live in an area that gets its fair amount of snow as well, and yeah, I've had my in-laws come and visit out here, and it could be a pretty dicey proposition. So it certainly makes sense that you want him using something like that when he's out at that time. So we've talked a little bit about the memory loss thing. Did he ever talk to you about it, about how he was feeling about it or coping with it?
No, I think as a father, you tend to try to protect your family a little bit from things like that, especially your son.
Yeah.
I think he didn't really want us to worry, so he didn't really talk much about it to us. We sort of went on life as usual. I mean, whatever we saw is what we took note of, and that's all we could really do was try to help him out along the way from what we observed. And
we have said before there was no official diagnosis, right?
No, there was no official diagnosis. What the doctor said in the medical report was there's a little bit of swelling in the brain, but nothing outside of what is normal.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Comment from Lou Sozo. Dementia can cause a person to not recognize familiar places or people. It might be that he became disoriented and tried to go somewhere that he hasn't been in a long time. Keep in mind places from years ago or from his youth, previous addresses, homes of old friends, places where he worked before. I'm sure you guys have racked your brain about all those considerations and looked into those angles, right?
Yes. We heard that recommendation from one of our family friends as well.
Yeah.
So we did do a search back out in Vancouver where we initially first landed, essentially, and looked for a bit. And we looked out there, and when we saw the phone ping out in Richmond, we also did a very thorough search of all the areas in Richmond that we thought he would potentially frequent. So, we spent a couple of days doing that too.
The Richmond phone ping is a really big mystery in this whole thing. Let's just talk. I know you have two different thoughts on that between each of you. Let's start with Zoe. Zoe, what's your opinion about that phone ping? What's going on with it?
I think we have different theories. I think it could be that somehow the phone did get to Richmond and it might still be in Richmond. I think initially it's hard for me to believe. I'm very skeptical that the phone would be in North Vancouver and would ping all the way down to Richmond.
What type of distance is that?
I think that's like 40 kilometers.
Yeah.
Not quite. I think it's about 21 straight shot. So as the crow flies in a straight line, it would be 21 approximately.
All right. And Rick, what's your theory?
Just the way the terrain is in that area in the Lynn Headwaters, the Seymour Demonstration Forest, it is valley on both sides. So it's mountains on both sides. And just the direction of that trailway, the main road that goes through that valley, it sort of funnels it directly. If you draw a straight line from the end of that road to the beginning of the road and all the way out to Richmond, it lines up to that intersection. So my theory is with the terrain, elevation, and those factors being counted in, it is possible that there was a weak signal that went all the way out there.
Right. And just to put the limited knowledge I have on this in there, I have heard of some strange phone ping situations like that before for cases where the ping seems to have happened in a location that is just so far from where the actual disappearance is. So there was someone that left a comment. It was a really large comment, had a lot of good detail in it, but they also talked about the possibility that the phone towers, if they are busy, if they're being overtaxed, they will essentially hand off the call to a different tower to handle it. So there might be some mechanic that's going on within their system of handing those calls off to other towers that might be responsible for some funkiness around that as well. Do you have any contact with kind of the experts at the company, at the phone company about that? Could you ask them about that? The phone
company's been a little bit frustrating. They don't keep any information apart from billable information. So that's the only thing that showed up was essentially that phone ping that we were aware of, because it was an actual call to his voicemail.
Right.
So that was the only information that we were able to retrieve from them, apart from past calls, and there wasn't much.
Okay.
So,
and
we haven't been able to do anything concrete about that one call.
Okay. And what time did we see him on the footage walking through the neighborhood?
That was at, I believe it was 10:30 or 10:25, and then 10:30. So it was like 5 minutes apart from each other.
And what time does the ping happen?
It happened at 7 p.m.
Wow. So we're talking a serious amount, at least 8 hours, more like 9 hours that have passed between when he's seen and that happens. No other phone activity leading up to that?
No. And that one call was made to his voicemail.
Which is strange in itself too. Yeah. I mean, if he was in distress or something, why are you going to call your own voicemail? You're going to call 911 or, well, interesting. Do you know what he has to call his own voicemail? Does he call his own number? It kind of depends on carriers, because I know some people have codes that they dial.
So I think there's a few different ways, and one is just simply pressing and holding one.
Right.
The other one is, I think some phones, if you click on the notification up at the top, it will automatically dial the number. And to be completely honest, we don't even know if he's capable of knowing how to dial his own voicemail.
Okay.
There is a chance that it was accidental. If he maybe just looked at his phone and saw that we were calling him, or
Was it a smartphone?
It was a smartphone, yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, pocket touches, pocket dials. I mean, I have that stuff happen all the time on my phone as well. So we're not positive that it was something he was intending to do necessarily. Okay. Gotcha. Vanessa, R18072, have they checked homeless centers and shelters and within the homeless communities in the area? Have they checked the same in surrounding larger cities? People with memory issues seem to end up there generally. What has your search been like on that front?
Early on, we delegated people to call homeless shelters in certain areas. I think we did Vancouver, North Vancouver, and Richmond.
Yeah.
And nothing showed up then. Since then, have we done anything?
We've had people check to see if there have been John Does that have showed up in hospital, and still nothing on that end. I know the law enforcement here in the RCMP have also been doing checks regularly to see if anything of that sort turns up.
Okay. Vanessa's actually raising a little bit of an interesting point. I know sometimes with some other families I've spoken to, they will essentially almost engage the homeless communities and just with flyers, I mean, you're talking about people that are out on the street all the time, essentially, and what they can see and, remember might be helpful in a case like this. So I did want to point out, pretty good idea there, Vanessa. Was he in contact with anyone new leading up to his disappearance?
No, we don't believe so.
No new circles of friends or social?
No, not really. No. He's got his work routines, and it's usually either he goes down the mall for some groceries or he goes for his walk. And that's about it.
Right. So does he, on top of the phone that he took with him, did he have his wallet with him as well?
He did have his wallet. All he had was $20 cash.
Okay. So not a significant amount of money.
He didn't have a transit pass. I think he may have had a piece of ID on him as well. But that's it.
What type of ID do you think he would have had?
I think it probably would have been his medical card or driver's license.
Okay.
I think it's all built into one nowadays, so I think it was probably that was on him.
Okay, gotcha. Now, something else kind of came out in our first conversation that I didn't know about, and in the Facebook post, you spoke about this a little bit. You talked about a third sighting of him. Can you tell us a little more about that? So we've got the two neighborhood sightings, and then supposedly in the park?
Right. There was an individual. Well, this is probably the most confident sighting that we had. The individual who reported it was out on a bit of a community search and just trying to build awareness. And one of the parks workers indicated that they saw him. And they also, the reason why we believe it is a confident sighting is he indicated that Vincent was wearing a hat. And that was something that we did not release to the public at the time. So this was information that we thought was quite accurate. The sighting also indicated that he was not wearing a blue vest. So with that, it is possible, since it's the next day, that he took it off or he had used it for when he was staying overnight in the forest. So we thought it was fairly confident. The individual picked out a couple of small details as well, such as sores on the mouth. So we're not too sure about that, but the fact that he pointed out the hat as one of the items that he saw was pretty unique.
What time was this sighting?
I think this was the morning after.
Would have been April 3rd. I think it was around, I want to say like between 10 and 1 p.m.
Yeah, I would say, I think I recall about 10 a.m.
Yeah.
was when he was spotted.
Over 24 hours later, and this is a parks employee, so pretty reliable in terms of the type of person that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about sores. What types of sores?
We don't know. I think that was just the way that the individual described the markings on his mouth. We're not sure.
It wouldn't have been normal for your father to have sores around his mouth,
It
right?
wouldn't. No, it wouldn't be normal.
That's a bit concerning. Do you think there's some possibility he might have been attacked or hurt himself or possibly fallen or something?
I think it's possible. I think at this point, anything is possible.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you're spending a night, it's the conditions you're staying the night there would take a factor on your face too, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. The Lying Scotsman makes a comment here, and I'm wondering if it actually ties into this a little bit. You and your team do a wonderful job, John. I hope this ends well. I worry about the ping, though. Seems like someone else ended up with his phone. So did he find it, or was it taken by force? And if we are talking about some type of injuries being seen on your father, the possibility that his phone might have been taken from him actually becomes a little more reasonable as a potential possibility. Can you tell us more about the terrain and the search efforts out there?
The terrain is quite difficult. Growing up in that area, you usually stay with the trails. There's lots of mountain biking trails, there's hiking trails, there's a lot of different routes in the area, and some are marked, some are not marked. So with the search efforts, a lot of it was left up to North Vancouver Search and Rescue to cover more of the difficult terrain, the less known trails, the canyon area. They did a lot of that. The RCMP also had search dogs go out and also canvass the trails in the area. We had a whole bunch of volunteers canvass the more well-marked trails. And we had people going from Lynn Valley all the way out to Seymour, all the way out to Grass Mountain. We had some of our more experienced hiking friends go up Lynn Peak to some of the more elevation-heavy trails in the area. So we've canvassed a lot of the main trails, but for someone who's been out there for this period of time, chances are they're probably not on a marked trail of any sort.
Right. Absolutely. You raise a couple of different important points. The first one I want to say is it sounds like you had a lot of support from the community as well.
We had tons, lots and lots of support, and we really do appreciate it. It was
amazing.
Yeah,
it still is amazing.
I think we probably had close to 100 people on the first day show up and canvas trails, go door to door, and help build awareness.
In the pouring rain.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and you also have to be smart about how you're using those resources. And I really appreciate that there was some recognition of the danger of the searches and making sure that people, essentially weren't going to harm themselves in terms of trying to search for your father. But you also kind of raised another question in my head about what happens out in this area recreationally, and are there any of those communities that you could tap into for trying to help look for your father as well? You talked about elevation hikers. Is this an area where you're likely to find, I don't know, like mushroom hunters or hunters of any kind, or do people take their dogs off trail out there? Any other recreations that you can think of like that?
Yeah, we've reached out to trail runners. We've reached out to the trail running community. We've also reached out to the dog walkers in the area too.
Yeah.
The mountain biking community is aware of it. We saw a whole bunch of posters up, trail maps up on Mount Frome. And yeah, we've reached out to the local neighborhood groups as well.
Yeah. That's something.
Seem pretty aware of it.
Yeah. There's quite a bit of awareness out in the Lynn Valley, North Vancouver area. And a lot of that's due to our volunteers that came out to go door to door and actually hand out flyers, speak with individuals that answered, and also a lot of them check their yards too, because that was one of the recommendations that the RCMP had at the time was if someone's been out there for a while, they might be seeking shelter in outbuildings and sheds or decks. So a lot of volunteers went around to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that there's such a good sense of community up there. And I can tell you many more times in these cases, I see that it is someone doing a recreational activity that finds the answers, probably even more so than, the RCMP or, the law enforcement down here. So we know that drones were used, and we had one drone lost in this. When I spoke to you guys previously, I had just learned about something called Wings of Mercy, and I was reading an article about it where essentially a man has written a program, because it's one thing to actually send a drone over an area like this, but what you wind up with is literally sometimes hundreds of thousands of individual pictures that need to be scanned looking for something. So this man wrote a program where the program is looking for specific colors, and it's already been successful in a few cases. And here we're talking about somewhat unique coloring in terms of his shoes that might be helpful. Have you reached out to Wings of Mercy at all yet?
We have. We actually had a call with Shane, and we are in the works of trying to coordinate something locally. We've had a volunteer indicate that he was very interested in doing so. So we have arranged that. We just need to hash out the details and figure out what actually works for him.
Excellent. And they're just doing that free? They're just going to help you guys for no cost? That's amazing.
Completely voluntary.
Yeah.
Wow. And they are also based in Canada. So, I just love highlighting good people that are trying to help others in need like this. So Wings of Mercy, you can find them on Facebook. When I was talking to Zoe about it, she found them before I could even pull off my search, which is pretty good. So just a quick search for Wings of Mercy on Facebook. On top of that, I just wanted to touch on this. I haven't talked about this in a while, but another approach that has been used is by the Matthew Weaver family, where essentially they created a website. They took all those photos of the drone footage and then offered a reward to whoever wants to go through those photos and find Matthew if he is in those photos. And if you're the one that finds him, that's a $50,000 reward. So just another kind of unique way where, getting a drone up in the air is almost the first step, but then the processing of that information is really tough and could be handled in a few different ways. So just wanted to share that with the audience. Any other information that hasn't quite been publicized yet about your search for Vincent?
So one of the more recent developments was on August 2nd. My family has this chat group on WhatsApp, and all of my aunts and uncles are all on it. And between 1 and 5 p.m., it indicates that Vincent left the group. And for those of us that have WhatsApp, you can probably leave a chat inactive for months or years, and you'll still be in that group. So that was a recent development that sort of stirred things up again. And we've reached out to WhatsApp and we haven't been able to get any answers. It's been really brutal, actually. It's been, what, 3 weeks now, 4 weeks?
Yeah. And I mean, this is kind of bizarre. You're talking just a few weeks ago. Essentially, there is some form of activity from his account, which is him withdrawing from this group. I looked into it a little bit. I saw several people talking about this topic and basically saying the same thing as you. There's no like automated mechanism that automatically closes your account. People have gone back to accounts, years later and fire them right back up. So this certainly is strange. We want to know, we have a cell phone missing. So if it is being used by someone else, it could be something along those lines. This just opens up a whole bunch of different possibility. Did you contact the RCMP and tell them about this?
Yes, so we did contact the RCMP. We let them know. If this is a case where someone actually went in and deleted the account, because right now we can't even find his account. We can't call it. We can't do anything with it. So if it is someone that actively went out and deleted his account, then that changes the investigation a little bit.
Yeah.
And that might suggest criminality of some sort on this case. But law enforcement's reached out to them, and they've essentially received the exact same answers from WhatsApp that we've received. And it's not helpful at all. It is essentially a generic answer saying that we may have deleted his account if it's been inactive for 30 days. Here's how you remove an account. And if an account's been removed, we no longer have any access to that account and the information associated with it. That's about it.
This is a bit of a sticky situation because I understand that WhatsApp is kind of built on their business principle is to keep things private, right? I mean, they want you to be able to have conversations with your family and it's encrypted from end to end, and they want to make sure that no one can, see what's going on. As a matter of fact, we've seen some bad things happening through WhatsApp as well with some missing persons cases, young girls usually speaking or being groomed by people. Sometimes WhatsApp could be a tool in doing that as well. But for a missing persons case like this, you have law enforcement reach out to them. Did they reach out to them with an official request or an official warrant of some kind?
So the difficulty that law enforcement had was, firstly, they're not as familiar with the U.S. Process of obtaining warrants, and they do have a law enforcement portal that they can access. But since the account's been deleted, there's no active number that they can enter into their portal to associate their request. So that's changed it back to where they have to reach out through the regular means that we do and submit a contact form to WhatsApp to try to obtain information.
And they have, and they're just getting the same response as you.
Yeah, and I do have the responses in front of me.
Let's hear some of them. Yeah, please do.
So one that we've heard over and over again is after an account has been inactive for at least 30 days, we have some security measures in place to protect our users' data. During this time frame, there's a possibility that the account might be deactivated or deleted. So it's really vague. And
yeah, I mean, even
30 days, this has happened 4 months after. So this is 120 days. So we've asked, what is the exact timeline? Do you guys keep records of the numbers that have been deleted? And we've received nothing.
Yeah, it really seems to me that this warrants some type of reply, and just in a way that not necessarily is compromising the intent of their business. I get it. I get that they're trying to keep this, secure. We're not looking for contents of the conversations. You know whose account it is. We know this is an active missing persons case. So can't we just get someone to dig in just a little bit harder than sending a form letter response like that and say specifically, yes, this was an automatic deletion that happened. Maybe Vincent had set something in the settings that, the rest of the family hasn't and didn't know about. Maybe he didn't even realize he was doing it. Some type of, if this account isn't used, automatically shut me off type of setting. which it's kind of sounding like they have some processes that might do that, but we're looking for.
It's just a timeline would be nice. If
Yeah.
it is 90 days, or if it's 120 days, it would be nice to get some sort of confirmation that, yeah, we deleted the account.
Yeah.
But even with the response, it's like, we may, or there's a chance that it might be removed. So and that's 30 days. It was the timeline that they gave, and they won't even be firm on it. They say we may.
Yeah.
Around the 30-day mark.
So I just want to put a personal appeal out there, and I'm going to try to edit a very short version of this conversation so that we could send this to WhatsApp. And I hope you other brain scratchers will help me with this. WhatsApp, we just need a very direct response about this particular case with this particular account and what triggered its deletion. I don't think that is breaking your business model. As a matter of fact, I would think being a good steward to the community of your users is probably only going to strengthen your business model. So brain scratchers, I will have the contact information for WhatsApp in the description box below, plus a link to a special shorter version of this video. Please take a few minutes, send them the information, send them a link to the video, and WhatsApp, please. We're just looking for a direct response about what happened to this one particular account. You can verify it's a missing person. You can contact RCMP to verify that. Please help this family. This is a very strange turn in this case. Imagine if it was you. Imagine if you had a missing loved one that you hadn't heard from for months, and all of a sudden you see any activity that looks like it's coming from them. Wouldn't you want to know that answer? Rachel Wild Stacy has a comment that I want to share with you guys. And she's talking about the aspect of, we talked about there not really being a silver alert system in place in this area right now. When our local government is more concerned about alerting us to when our garbage goes out than alerting us to when one of our parents or loved ones needs the help of an extra set of eyes, ears, or hands of our global village to be on the lookout for their safety, we truly need to make some immediate changes. I pray that your Baba, and then I believe she has Chinese characters for it, her father, is found quickly and safely. Your father's story has brought me to tears, and I've said a prayer for your father, your family, and all those dealing with this same issue. I'm also praying that the silver alert will be started nationwide so others will not suffer through the same issues in the future. Are you guys looking into that aspect in terms of silver alert? Are you part of that battle to now make that change happen?
Not yet. I think we've talked about it, about getting involved.
Yeah.
I think it would be a useful tool to have out there.
Yeah.
It is true about the recycling and garbage days.
It is.
That one gets to me.
Right.
Yes, we have been in touch. It's been a while. It was in the early days that we received an email from the individual who was trying to head the Silverlight notifications.
Yeah.
Silver alert.
Silver alert.
Yeah, silver alerts. Yeah.
And I think with everything that was going on, our energy wasn't really quite there yet. And slowly, I think we're building up a little bit more strength to eventually reach out again and build a little bit of awareness on how this could help.
Absolutely. I think such an important aspect to launching some of these initiatives is to hear from people that have really dealt with this firsthand. And obviously you have the account, you have the story that you can share with others and really make them think twice about this. And wouldn't this be a good thing? We're talking about something that many of us are going to face at some point in our lifetime, either a loved one that is going through potentially memory loss or things that are even worse, or quite possibly even ourselves. So having tools that make our community better for handling those situations, I don't know how you can go wrong with that. And please don't knock yourselves for not being in the spot to handle that earlier. Your focus absolutely is needed for Vincent. But as time passes, I think a beautiful way to honor Vincent and this experience that you guys have gone through is to join up arms, and help that battle. I think it's a really important cause out there.
I am aware that there is a very similar case in our neighborhood here that sort of also brought up the silver alert issue. And this individual, their anniversary when they went missing is also coming up as well. So wow. I know it is something that is on our minds right now too, with that individual's the anniversary of when his dad went missing coming up quick. So for sure, it is something that we want to build awareness on and maybe join arms and build community around this.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of people, and it's going to take the right people. And I know that you guys are definitely part of that equation. We are about at the end of the interview. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share in terms of information or just anything you wanted to say to everybody?
I think we want to thank everyone for commenting and watching and sharing. It's been pretty amazing, like we said earlier, the community that I think we learned we had throughout all this. So I think we just wanted to say thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of us out here that care, and we want to see an outcome to this case, and we're absolutely behind you guys. If there's anything that you guys think I can do for you, please, you know how to get a hold of me. Please reach out. We will make it happen. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you, John.
All right. You take care and sit tight. I'll be right back with you just as soon as I end the show for the day. That is it, everyone. Once again, just a very big thank you to Rick, Chi, and Zoe. I really appreciate hearing from you guys. I'm thankful that we gave you some information. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about Wings of Mercy and how all that plays out. I think that could be a significant factor in this case. But I also appreciate that Rick and Zoe are sharing their experience with us because, just like they said, there are other families that are going through this as well. Maybe there's something in this video that one of those other families will hear, and it might help them find the truth of their case. Take care, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch on the Lord and Arts channel.